edition of xanScorp. Today's topic that we're going to be talking about has to deal with many companies and their open positions available, and as it regards to background checks and then being disqualifying factors even for the companies that say it's not. Basically, this public service announcement, it hopes to spread something similar to Article 23A from New York's labor laws. New York's labor laws, in that article, it states that if the felony is not relevant to the job, they can't deny you, based solely on that. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. First and foremost would be the fact that individuals with a strike on their background check would have more to lose in committing a repeat offense. Not only that, but generally any offense. Those with a clear background, as it would only be a first offense, would typically receive no more than a proverbial slap on the wrist for whatever crime it would be, say theft or unless it's actually a violation of federal law. There's not much that would actually happen to them for doing anything. A person on a strike with the strike on his or her background, however, would be treated more differently and receive a harsher sentence. Therefore, it's actually a much greater deterrent to any kind of wrongdoing than somebody with a clear background would have. Another reason for considering hiring someone with a mark on his or her background, the additional costs that they would actually have currently, as well as ongoing until their fines and restitution are paid off. Basically, every person has the basic costs of living, which is food, clothing, shelter, fuel, whether it be their own vehicle or for public transportation. However, in addition to those, somebody with a blemish on their background would most likely also have costs and restitutions to pay off, and those typically at minimum are about $2,500. So you're basically looking at food, rent, clothes, and your cost and restitution, which has to be paid off. So people with a felony on their background would actually be more adamant about being on time and doing their job in order to keep their job. Another good reason, not that I should have to keep drilling these similar reasons into your minds, but another good reason is that most people who have a conviction after serving any kind of sentence, you had to spend some time not being able to work, not so much out of reason that you didn't want to work, but because somebody wouldn't let you work. And therefore, they actually want to work now. They want to actually garner some kind of stable income. Um, but being in prison or anything like that, obviously you can't. And because the need to pay is so much more than somebody with a clear record, people with blemishes on their record often seek out positions which offer a good combination, which is decent pay and with benefits, preferably. Most people do want benefits, medical, dental, vision, and something which they know they're good at. I mean, that's actually logical for them as well as for a lot of people. I mean, most people I know do not apply to jobs that they're not sure they can do. Some people call it confidence, I call it competence. because there's a lot of people that apply for jobs that they're definitely not qualified for, but they'll do it anyway. A lot of people I know will not apply to a job unless they know they can do it. Those with clear backgrounds have a higher probability of quitting without notice, as it is easier for them to simply get another job, where those with felonies value jobs. This is very true. As touching back on the stable employment topic, basically hiring somebody with no blemish on their background, no record whatsoever, that means if they just don't like the job, they know there's a good chance they can always just get another one really rapidly. So they'll probably just, quit. Worst case scenario, they'll quit making a scene. Now, a person with a felony or misdemeanor on their background, on the other hand, they'll actually value that job because they'll know how difficult it is to find another. So pretty much what happens is, even if they start to not like it, they'll stay there until they actually find something else. And generally they will provide that 2 weeks notice because they kind of have to. So unless it's actually killing them, it's detrimental to their health, they will actually retain that job and do it to the best of their ability because they need the work and they know how hard it is to actually find other work. This is actually a good topic that's been touched on a lot by various forms. Uh, the whole male versus female arguments, people saying men get off easy, and no, it's actually that people with wealth get off easier. This is very true. Those with records often just lack the funds for a good attorney, and public defenders generally only seek a plea deal because the weight of their caseload. And the plea deal that normally they seek is just whatever the first thing that's offered. So if they offer that you plead out to one felony count of something in exchange for, say, maximum of 6 months, minimum is immediate probation. Most people would take the plea deal, especially considering that not taking the deal could actually result in years in prison. And as I said, most public defenders, they have a heavy workload, a heavy caseload. They're not going to be able to give you their full attention. It'll cause some issues, and a lot of times you really don't want to lose that case. Okay, yeah. Allow me to give you an example. If someone commits a robbery and while fleeing they're discarding some of these stolen items. Now, you didn't see this person run by, but you see one of the discarded items because they passed by, say, 10 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago. Now you pick up one of the items, you're looking at it, one of the officers pursuing the thief sees you with the stolen item. Well, in their eyes, you are right now an accomplice, and also it is a felony to be in possession of a stolen item. And basically, if you don't have the money for a good attorney, most likely the best thing you're going to be offered is a plea deal. So you plead out to possession of stolen items, and you'll get very light sentence at best. But in the future, now you have a felony on your record, all because you didn't have money for an attorney. Basically, if you were to fight the charge and lose, you might end up spending 9 months in prison at least, up to 5 years. And most people just don't want to take that chance, especially if you have to go with a public defender. A lot of people will take the plea deal. It's the wiser of the two choices. Records are generally displayed under umbrella terms. This is actually a very important factor for many people who end up on Megan's Law and things like that. Now, many crimes are enveloped in other terms, and the larger term doesn't actually fit, and it's very obscure and gives a uh, I would say false image of what the crime actually was. Let's say, put it this way, somebody convicted of statutory rape. Okay, now let's say the person um, dates someone who's under the legal age of consent, and they get intimate, and she gets pregnant. Now, according to the law, that's statutory rape. So, even if they stay together, and they're together for years and years and years, at one point in time he committed statutory rape if he took the plea deal that would actually be listed under the umbrella term of sexual abuse of children. Now, it was consensual on both parts. For all we know, it might have been initiated on the underage person's part. But, according to the terminology, he corrupted a minor. Is it logical? No. Is it exacting as how the wording is? Not really. But that's how the law is, uses umbrella terms to actually categorize things. A great reason for considering disregarding the background checks where it is not relevant is to prevent a rising crime rate. I mean, this is actually very logical if you think about it. Because there are basic necessities in everybody's life: food, shelter, things like that, clothing. Some even have children to provide for. And basically, without adequate paying work, a person would have to find another means by which to provide those things for himself, herself, and their children. Eventually, by disqualifying good applicants for positions, you're also denying them the ability to garner that income in order to survive and to support. And eventually, their mindset will become they have to garner that income by any means necessary. So essentially, robbery, theft, prostitution, things that are not legal, but they do generate income of some kind. The most commonly heard remark as far as employment complications by most people who have no idea how the system works or the bias and prejudice faced within the system is typically if you do the crime, you do the time. But the question is, what if the person actually served time? Does that mean that that doesn't count? The time served doesn't matter? It's something to actually think about. Um, how long does that person have to have that held against them? Especially if it's something they didn't actually do. If their only crime was not being wealthy, how long should that be held against them? And considering companies in general, um, would you be comfortable intentionally robbing yourselves of better and more qualified candidates? That's actually a good question. Simply because it was policy to not accept felons. Okay, what if you have somebody who is very good with coding, correcting coding, and they're very keen on details and can spot mistakes and errors really quickly? and now you got somebody else that dabbles in, I guess, Facebook and, different kind of terminology, but has no real focus. Now the person that has no focus has no anything on their background. The person who is very detailed and knowledgeable has a felony from 7 years ago or 6 years ago. According to company policy, the smarter one will be denied because of a presence of something on the background check, whereas the person that would have no idea what they were doing would be given the position simply because they had a clear background. So basically, you end up frustrating your consumers. Your customers and your client base are getting the worst service because policy is not to hire the better candidate. That would actually be the topic that I was just mentioning now. Companies are oftentimes eliminating the best candidates for the most acceptable. As I mentioned, you're basically eliminating. I mean, there was actually a great example of this in a recent film. I'm still waiting on the permission from the copyright holders to include it into this video. However, because it is a film, the film does have a copyright on it. I can make vague references to it without violating any copyright laws, but essentially the guy gets out of prison and he mentions to his friend that he'll be okay because he has a master's degree. However, he ends up working at a small place that would be for most entry level people entering the working world, all because he has a felony. And even that, when they find out he had a felony, they have to let him go. And you can see how ridiculous that is because it makes no sense to do that. So hopefully more people will see the light on this matter and take it upon themselves to push for change in hiring practices. I hope this has been educational. I'm Xander Lopez, and thank you for your time. And the xanScorp Enterprises, hopefully educating you a bit more. Have a good day.